Hello, future people. Welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today we're going to be checking out the brand new version of the Cityscape terrain for Dropzone Commander. So, the Cityscape terrain is a cardboard terrain set that's more or less existed since the very, very beginning of Dropzone. It kind of stopped existing at some point in the last 6 to 12 months. I don't know exactly when that was. They did actually say that it was being taken off and being reworked, but I just don't remember when that was exactly. This went up about 3 weeks ago at the time of recording. This doesn't actually belong to me. This belongs to John. John has let us open a couple of things that he's purchased from TT Combat in relation to Dropzone. And again, I do thank you for that, my friend. It's very, very much appreciated. I'm looking forward to getting my eyes on this. We're going to go have a look at the box first. There's a couple of things on this I want to kind of point out. All right, and here we are. So, first things first, very similar. Not the same, but very similar to the old package. And I suspect that's by design. I mean, it makes sense. But there is a couple of things about this that I kind of want to point out. First things first, this pretty much works the same way by the look of it. I will be building one of these. I have been given permission to build a couple of them if I want to, just because he thought that might be good content, so he doesn't mind me doing that. But this is what I wanted to bring people's attention to. First and foremost, this is no longer in the squares that the old one used to be. This is 4 2x3 foot gaming posters. So this is split down. And this is the other thing. I'm not 100% sure what I feel about this, honestly. We've got 20 randomly assorted card buildings. Now, I would like to think that the reason this is worded this way is because they're not all guaranteed to be the same. If we say that it's randomly, then hey. But personally, if I was buying a product and I was buying a set, I would want to know what I was getting. I mean, I'm not saying this is going to happen to you, but if it's random, then there is a chance that you could get a whole heap of buildings that are the same. Now, you should get some that are the same. That is literally the point of this. But I don't feel comfortable with the fact that these are randomly randomly assorted, as opposed to being an organized actual set. That's just my opinion. This doesn't make this bad. It's just not what I would have preferred to see. Inside, we have the same TT Combat box that we always do. So this is the same box that your two-player starter sets will be coming in, basically. So, yes, we've got 4 2x3. We're going to look at these in more detail in a moment. The thing I like about this is it means that you can actually change your table up a little bit. It's not always going to be the same. And it's probably easier to set a table up with less pieces. I kind of found that the tiles used to kind of come apart and stuff all the time, but I don't know. I don't mind that. All right, so in John's set, we have 4 of the small buildings, and none of these are the same. We have 4 of the next size up, and again, none of these are the same. We have 4 of what I'm going to call the tall buildings, and again, none of these are the same. We have 4 of your large buildings, and again, none of these appear to be the same. Nope, they're all different. And then finally, we have 4 of these size buildings, and again, these are all different. So, despite the fact that the box states that it's randomly assorted, we have received completely different buildings for all of them. So that tends to hint at the fact that maybe it's just kind of worded that way just to cover them. But if you've received one of these and you do have more repeats than John does, let us know in the comments, because I'm very interested to hear what other people have received. Given that we have this in hand, so that's the size of the building we're looking at. Where's the seam? So there's our seam. Everything seems to be glued really, really well, actually. There's no sign of that coming apart. Now, obviously, you could tear this if you were not careful with it. But I'm going to build one of these very carefully on camera. So it's a little bit fiddly to build for the first time. This should become easier over time. You'll also notice that because this has only been done for the first time, it's all kind of bowing and stuff. Generally speaking, what I would probably suggest is you want to work these corners up so that they do, specifically these ones that were flat in the box, just to try and encourage it to be the right shape. And basically what you're doing at this point is you are training your cardboard. Over time, cardboard terrain will become a little bit more brittle and a little bit more worn. The more that you build these and flatten them again, the more you will start to see that wear. But at this point, you can already see that was a lot easier to put together now that I've trained it. And there's nowhere near as much bowing now that I've done that either. So if you wanted to build these and leave them up all the time, you certainly could. You are kind of denying yourself one of the benefits of this, which is the fact that it can actually lay down flat again. So it's probably important to keep in mind. I'm not going to build a full table of this because, again, this doesn't belong to me. But I will kind of build one of the smaller ones as well, just to go with it. So this one's a little bit more of a rectangle shape. So again, I want to try and train these corners. In theory, you can do it to all of them, but these were already bent inside the box, so you don't really need to as much. When putting these together for the first time, the thing that you need to be wary of is to prevent this from buckling and so forth. Which will happen eventually, but obviously try to look after it for as long as you can. There's also this here folds back in on itself. And there we go. So that's just a couple of the buildings. Artwork wise, honestly, the artwork on these is phenomenal. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, the artwork on the previous ones were really nice too. But I had already seen some previous ones that were definitely more on the worn side. But there's some really nice gradients in this. The artwork is really nice. I don't know the old ones well enough to know if this artwork is new or not. It definitely feels like they would fit in. If you know this better and can comment as to whether any of these details have changed or not, I would certainly appreciate those comments. Nice details here as well. The artwork on this makes this look like these platforms are rounded. Obviously it's not, but I quite like that. Bit of a grid on the top, which is nice. It kind of looks like it's a grate for a cooling vent or something. Kind of feels like a bank institution, this one. This one is definitely apartment blocks. This could either be an apartment block or it could be an office of some kind. Really nice and fancy, this one. So we seem to have elements that kind of cross over with all of them. So that's a very similar design, but the colours are completely different. Which, again, may be a slight hint as to the randomly assorted. These ones are definitely much larger. So this grid pattern, the rooftop seems to only have a couple of different patterns. There we go, we got a different one there. So this artwork is very similar to one of the other ones that we saw, except this is now red instead of blue. And there appears to be quite a bit of that. Because this is just a very budget-friendly terrain set. So you can't expect everything in this to look unique. This one's quite interesting because it's like a two-tone effect, right? It doesn't really, you can't really see until you fold it out. This is actually two different buildings as one. I really like that. That is not what I was expecting to find. If this seam annoys you, by the way, you can probably black that out with a bit of a marker. It doesn't irritate me, but I know there are some people that find stuff like that frustrating. It looks like all of these are like that, because that's another one of those two buildings in one. This is one building. Or is that three buildings? No, sorry, it's actually three buildings, this one. This one in the middle is just very narrow. Another three. Narrow ones on the outside on this. And then we get to our smaller ones. All right, so here is our first tile. You'll have to excuse the camera work on this because it's on the floor and I'm having to film this by hand. First things first, I love the fact that there's a basketball court here. I mean, that I'm here all day for that. Lovely, nice parkland there. Grass looks quite nice and textured. I like that it's not symmetrical. I like that it's asymmetrical because it kind of feels more real. I mean, yes, you do have symmetrical gardens, obviously, but I don't know. I like this. Roads are nice and textured. Everything's very clean on this. There is a different set that you can buy that is Ruinscape, and obviously that will be more ruined, hence the name. Number two here. This is pretty much just roadway and pavement. Got a little bit of a something. I can't quite make out what that is supposed to be. But there's one on either side of the road. Still very clean because, again, this is not the Ruinscape. This is the Cityscape. I like the car park. It's nice. Number three now. At first, it kind of looks like it's just more cement and roadway. This road is actually coming to a stop and it looks like it goes underground, I would say, because there's shadows there. But on the other side, we have another park and it's a different park. But unfortunately, this park has some horrible, ugly propaganda there in the centre of it. Look at that horrible, ugly UCM propaganda. We should burn this immediately. Sorry, John, I'm going to have to burn your board because clearly that UCM logo has no place on this table and should be destroyed. No, I'm really liking this, honestly. And then finally, we start here with another parkland. This one's more square than the other ones were. And another one of these, it's kind of like dirt beds. I guess they're old garden beds, maybe. Maybe that's what they're supposed to be. And then, yeah, the rest of it's... We actually have an overpass here, which is quite nice. But yeah, the rest of it is just kind of roadwear. Apologies for the glare. So this is just listed as 4 2x3 foot gaming posters. So this is not listed as random. So you should be receiving exactly the same 4 that I'm looking at here. Unless, of course, you bought the Ruinscape, in which case, well, then you get the Ruin ones. Paper stock-wise, I don't know exactly what the GSM of this is, but it is very thin. It's very, very thin. So there we are. That's the Cityscape terrain for Dropzone Commander. Look, honestly, if you're looking for a cheap budget terrain set, this is really, really good quality stuff. The gaming posters, like the actual floor mat, is really thin paper stock. So I do worry that maybe that won't last as long. But it's a really cheap set. Honestly, like the buildings are fine. If you have like a fully built table with MDF buildings and stuff, this probably isn't going to be for you. But if you want to get a couple of tables at a really cheap price, this is really easy. The only reservation that I have is that the box lists the buildings as randomly assorted. So I have reservations for that because I can't guarantee that you will get the same sort of differences that I saw here today. My assumption that I choose to have is that I assume that it's worded that way just in case they're not all exactly the same, because then it makes packaging them a little bit easier. But I can't really guarantee you that because it says randomly assorted. So you could get something entirely different. I would hope that you would at least get the same number of sized buildings. It doesn't really matter buildings-wise in Dropzone. It's fairly flexible in that way. But I would just feel more comfortable if I knew that you were getting exactly what I was showing you. Otherwise, look, for the price you're looking at, which is £35, this is a steal. Anything that's within that 10 to 15 mil range, this would be fine for. The only thing I will say is that if you're someone that's looking for some cheap terrain for bot war, the mats on this are 2x3, so therefore it's going to end up being a 4x3 board at the most. I wouldn't be using the mats for bot war, but the building should be fine, honestly. So there's another alternative for you. A lot of really positive things to say about this. If you're getting into the comments, maybe give a thank you to John for allowing me to unbox it. Thank you again, John. I do appreciate it. You've made it through to the end of another video. Your next mission is to hit subscribe and comment down below. If you'd like to reach out to the team, consider doing that, gettingtabled@gmail.com. Consider subscribing to our Patreon. For only $2 a month, you get early access to almost every single video that we do. Our most active social media is facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's where you'll find everything first. There's also a Discord. There's an invite on screen right now. If you type that in, it'll give you instant access. If you're on Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. It's not the most active, but it's something we're trying to use more all the time. Come and check out Jason the Bruce at Twitch. He does both video game and hobby content. And of course, without question, play more games.